Today we're talking about getting quick and effective results, and I'm going to show you what I use now. I've gone through different methods. What I like to do is I'm doing the Flambient method. If you've clicked on this video, you're probably either interested or wanted to see what I do, or you're wanting to learn the Flambient method. So what I do is I love Micro Four Thirds, more specifically the Olympus EM1 Mark II, paired with the 8 to 18 Olympus lens. I love this lens because it's not too wide to where you're making the rooms look bigger than they really are. And you get a nice focal range to where if you need to zoom in, especially for exteriors or super large rooms, you want to be zoomed in a little bit. That gives the room more of a natural looking perspective, okay? So, and I also run with a Hoya NXT Plus circular polarizer that helps to pull the glare out of hardwood floors and on TVs and other things that you don't want glare. You're able to control this the scene a little bit better. I'm gonna have all this stuff linked, my Amazon affiliate account. Use those to look at the products. I'm both an eBay and an Amazon shopper, so if you can find a better deal on eBay, go ahead. Just copy and paste the description of that product that you want to see, dump it into eBay and see what you can find. So I run with the Godox X1T trigger right on the hot shoe of the camera, and then I like this trigger because it comes with another hot shoe right on top, which acts as an extension to your hot shoe. And then I'm using the V1, the Godox V1, and it has a nice cold shoe lock right there. That's really nice. So on top, I'm running with a Mag Mod, the Mag Sphere. Now, I don't always use this, but say you're in a room with dark hardwood ceilings, you can't bounce light off hardwood. It'll create orange color cast that you cannot remove in post, so just remember that. So I like to use this. This throws the light everywhere. I typically don't use this unless I have to because it does tend to glare off windows. So I just wanted to throw that out there and show you guys. So my second light, and I'm always running with two lights, typically in large areas, and I'm going to show you how to light multiple rooms also in this tutorial, so hang with me. What I'm got here, I told you the V1 on top of the camera, and then I have the 8200 that I use to run around and do my flash pops. So I'm going to take you now into Lightroom and just show you how I light a large room to make sure I can get the back of the room lit regardless of how much daylight is coming in. I like to control the light even if I run with lights off, which I do typically run with lights off because then you're not battling multiple color temperatures with, tungsten lighting on the inside and daylight temperature lighting coming from the outside. So when you can, my advice is to run with lights off. Ask your realtor first, though. They might be persistent on having lights on, so you want to make sure that you are on the same page with them. But most realtors that I work with just let me do whatever I want. I tell them it'll look better with the lights off. And, sometimes you have to have lights on for some situations. But typically you can light an entire house without any lights. And I'll show you a bathroom shot that I do completely dark. Just pop a flash and it looks awesome. So let's get into Lightroom now and I'll show you how to light a large room. Alright, so here we are in Lightroom. And most of these I can do almost every large room like this with 3 images. And I'm going to show you, this is the ambient layer. And I'm just going to reset these so you can see what they look like straight out of camera. 2 flash pops, 1 on each side. So this flash pop lights this side. This flash pop will light this side. So I just angle the light up to hit, and you can see the ceiling is pitched a little bit. So the light comes out, bounces, and lights this side, and then you blend back in the ambient. And I'm going to use, wrong room. I will use this shot for my window pole, okay? So let's start with the ambient. And I always come up here to my initial bump, which gives me, I drop the highlights, boost the shadows a little bit. It's basically a starting point. But make your own presets. It'll make your workflow go a lot faster. All you got to do is create your first image, come up here, hit the plus sign next to the preset, label it whatever you want. Right here, create preset. Make sure all these are checked by default. They should be. But right here, name your preset and then hit create. and then you'll see it listed over here. So from now on in this tutorial, I'm just going to be using my initial preset to get me close, and then I'm going to tweak them. So I'll show you what that does. Okay, don't worry about white balance right now. I leave my camera on auto white balance, and therefore I just leave it on as shot. Now if you notice that it didn't look that good, or you can tell that it's a little too warm or too cool, try the auto version. So now sometimes with Lightroom, when you're with your flash shots, auto tends to look a little bit better, but literally gonna be different for every situation. So you want to get it as close as possible, and then when we go into Photoshop to merge these, I'll show you a trick to get rid of any color cast or any white balance inconsistencies. So and let's go over to this one. We're gonna do my bump, and I liked how auto looked for the other one, and it'll match that. So once you have your 3 images ready to go, we're just gonna highlight both of them. It is this one and this one. Right click, edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. Once your images are loaded into Photoshop, we're going to make sure that that ambient layer is on top. And again, Photoshop will throw these in order of what you shot them at. That's why I always do my ambient layer first. It just makes, again, for that workflow to be even faster. So we have to make sure that we blend. We have to get our flash shot ready to merge with that ambient layer. And we have to get ourselves out of the shot. So what we're going to do is we're just going to shut off, see this little eyeball right here? We're going to turn off the ambient layer because we don't need it. And now we're exposing that first flash layer. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on that layer and come down here to the mask, and then Command-I to invert it, and that reveals the one underneath. Make sure your selection color is white over here. You got your brush tool selected. I put my flow. I typically like to have it at about 5% for everything. And if you feel like that's taking forever, which it probably will, we can bump that up. But you don't want to go all the way to 100% because you want to be able to blend these pretty well. So, maybe 50 for something like this. There it goes. And you want to make sure that you are removing yourself completely out of the image. And that ceiling was a pretty hot spot there. We're just deleting it, going up to 77%. This is, you know why? Okay, here's the other thing too to remember is your hardness. You want that all the way to 0. That'll have a nice blend from the outside of your circle here that you're using. Oh, here it goes. That's why. And this is a good learning experience for all of us. So my opacity was at 30%. You want that at 100. There we go. I was wondering why it wasn't. It was. See how if I come over here, I'm starting to get into that other flash image that was on top. And if you do, just make sure you flick it back to, switch it back over to black. And again, now we can bring our flow back down to blend that in a little smoother like that. And again, we're going to be throwing in some ambient on top of this. So, okay, there we go. Now, that looks almost deliverable in my eyes. And now again, this isn't a pretty, this isn't one of those fancy, the carpet, this older couple, they've lived in here their whole lives and furniture got moved out. But hey, we're not going to mess with it because we want to make the house look almost exactly like you're going to see it when you go to look at the house. So real estate photography is a little bit different than any other. You can't get too fancy with your editing because you want to make potential buyers happy that they are seeing the house online the same as what they're going to see when they go to look at the house, because we're trying to help sell the house with the realtor. That's the whole point of our job. So let's turn this back to white. We're going to turn the ambient layer back on, and what I typically like to do, and just to make this quicker, is as long as you don't have any crazy shadows. All right, so if there was really harsh shadows on this chandelier casting onto the ceiling, we wouldn't be able to do this method. We would have to create a layer mask and blend in ambient where we needed it. But for this example, in most examples, I'm just going to take my ambient layer and bring it down to like 50%. just to get 50% more ambient layer in. Now that does soften your window pull. So what I like to do is create a layer right here, a layer mask, leave it at white, turn my color to black, make this a little bit smaller. Now what I'm doing is just painting back in that flash layer that's underneath. Just like that. There we go. So see how it just makes it look a little bit more natural? So now let's flatten this image. And I'm going to show you how to get rid of it. You can tell there's a little bit of color cast. Look like there's some orange maybe come from this wall right here. Or maybe the sun beating on it. It's creating a little bit of color cast. So what I like to do, I'm going to duplicate this layer. Come up here to Filter, Blur, and then Average. What this is doing is just taking an average of all the colors. So then we come down here, and we're going to choose a Curves Adjustment layer. Choose the middle eyedropper right here, and we're just going to click anywhere on the image, and that's going to correct it for middle gray right there. And then we get rid of that. And now if we turn this first layer off, we're going to see, if we toggle this off and then on, you can see that it got rid of that orange. Now sometimes it'll make it look too unnatural just by what's happening. So we're basically getting the correct gray point, which would give you the correct white balance or the correct color. So sometimes to my eye it pushes a little too much, so I'm just going to drop this down to like 50%, and you're going to notice when I toggle this off and then on again, it still definitely has some significant results that get rid of that orangish look. So, well, again, we have to flatten this image, and it's going to tell us, do we want to discard that hidden layer? Yes, we do. We don't need that one. And now Command S to save it, and it'll bring it right back into Lightroom. And again, once we're back into Lightroom, it'll say TIFF there. That means that is the layer that got transferred back over to Lightroom. We're going to click, I have an interior final preset, and again, it's just building presets. And that's pretty much it. I might drop my blacks down a little bit more if I feel like it needs a little bit more contrast. But that is it. I really don't mess with the vibrance too much. I'll increase the clarity a little bit. And that's it. And what I'll do is I'll set flag and then flag. And that will bookmark that for the ones that I'm going to deliver. So then I just move right down the line to my next one, and then when it's time to deliver them, I go to flagged right here, and then I can highlight all these by clicking on the first one, and then shift clicking on the last one, and then I right click, export, and then I find the folder that I put my realtor's work in. I have a folder in my external hard drive here, realtors, boom, they're all there. And that's how I do it. Name it by usually the address, and then when I hit, and actually the quality too, remember this, I bring this quality down in the 20 and the 30s. That'll keep the file size nice and small, because a lot of times realtors will get frustrated if the file sizes are too big and they're having a hard time uploading them or downloading them for that matter. So just remember that. That's just as a free no charge tip there for you. So let's go back. We'll turn the filters off so I can see the rest of these photos. I'm going to show you a bathroom photo that I did. Just a single image. Right here. Single image. Let me see if it... Yeah, I'm not going to be able to show you how dark this was, but let me reset this. Alright. That was it. That was just one flash pop, and then when you bring up the shadows and bring down the highlights, it looks like I turned the lights on, but see, I don't have the color casting with these tungsten lights that would have made this pretty much a mess to deal with, you know. Sometimes you can get away with it if it's, you know, depending, like I said, every single room is going to be different, but that's it. That's how I do it. And here's the other thing too I want to share with you is once I get into bedrooms, I use just simple ambient layer and a flash layer right here, but I keep the flash on top of the camera off, and I just run with my AD200, reaching it up into the doorway, popping that flash off, and then I go in, and then I don't need to worry about the flash on top of the camera, creating that hotspot on a window or something, because being that low typically will throw a flash hotspot on the, but that's really easy to fix. You just walk over to the window and hit a flash pop or do a window pull to get rid of that, to avoid, something where you can blend. Because once you learn how to blend 2 or 3 images, you can do pretty much anything. It really changes the way you'll look at a situation. You'll walk into a room that's poorly lit and you won't be intimidated by that. You'll be able to just make my multiple flash pops to light it, and then you blend them in later. Here's one I did where I had to light back here and this room right here, because I wanted to show that this room is adjacent to the kitchen here. So what I did, this actually is the flash shot above the camera only, and notice how dark that is. Now when you're shooting, you can decide whether or not this ambient layer is going to be enough to light that. We had a window back here that was pulling light through, but what I did was I found a spot to hide, and a lot of times that's easier than doing 2. That way you don't have to blend mask yourself out. So that's what I did for, let's see if I can find it. Yeah, this one. Just in case that was too hot there, that sun hitting the wall, I just hid behind here, and I didn't care about the blooming of the flash right here because I'm able to get that out with the ambient layer. And then I walked into this room, did a flash pop, and that was the final image blended into Photoshop. So there you go. That's how I run with 2 flashes. I always have that flash on top of the camera. That makes things a lot easier. That way you can move really quickly around a room knowing that you're always going to have light above the camera to make it easier to blend those 2 images with your second flash that you have in your hand. Thanks again for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. We've got a ton of new tutorials coming out and product reviews on all sorts of different cameras and gear. So stay tuned for those videos. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye now.